Nearly a year, speaking to you now at the start of June, from when we recorded that, and then I released the album.
It goes like I said, it goes quick. What have you? Because that was your first album. This is your second album.
Yeah,
I feel like that first album is, and I guess the closest I can relate to that is my first book.
yeah.
There's just so much I was learning in and around the process of that, in addition to actually creating the book. So what have you? Is there anything you've learned or taken with you from going through that first album compilation release experience into what you've now put together for the second album?
Whereas the first time with Small Town Dreamer, I was starting from zero because that was my first album, and as some of you will know, it came about quite unexpectedly because of like the internet and local viral hit of my rapper alter ego MC Beastly. So I was kind of, okay, wow, I've got this audience now. I want to deliver them awesome music to express my full self. So that's where the idea of doing the double album came from. And I was starting from zero though, so I was writing all these tracks. I think in that time my mindset was more like, right, write a track, record it, and it's out. So that's where you ended up with this quite expansive 20 tracks, 1 hour long thing. This time, what was different was, firstly, I wasn't starting from zero. I actually had like half of the songs that have ended up being on it were carried over from the first songwriting batch. I actually had more than 20, clearly. But then also I was actually way more like ruthless with stripping away, both in what the songs that I wrote, stripping down the length. Most of them land below 3 minutes. As you'll know, the whole listen experience is under half an hour now. So clearly I've got a lot better at editing.
You talk about bringing my full self to this album. So you've got Cerulean and you've got MC Beastly.
Sure.
From the top, Divided Selfie.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain how that all has been packaged?
I mean, the Divided Selfie as a project is released. It's formed of two 5-track EPs which go to streaming services to the two different stores. The Cerulean store, which Cerulean anagram of my name Lawrence. It's more the voice you'd expect from me. And then I explore my darker side, more outrageous masculinity turned up to 11, MC Beastly, and that's a different streaming profile. And so they're both 5-track EPs. 5 wasn't a coincidence. It's the 5 senses of ourselves. So in a sense, they're both self-portraits, musical self-portraits. But then what about when we step back and look on the bigger picture as those who, are consuming, digging deeper, seeing the YouTube on Bandcamp, for example, they get a whole different experience where they get this 10-track album, which is symmetrical, and there's a certain beauty to that symmetry. So for each sense, you actually get two different perspectives on that.
So you're releasing them separately and in combination? I wasn't aware of that. That's fascinating.
In the same way as with the first record, the way I tried to do that was nudging the listener to hop across by putting features of each artist on the bookended tracks. Mm-hmm. This time I thought I'd do something a little bit more audacious, which was actually make don't tell the streamers that there is this other side, but then for those who do discover it, it's like this revelatory experience. And I think that saves it up for more of that shock value of like, wow, that's almost like a potentially like mind expanding moment if you discover that there's this other 5 cents of this individual.
Literally mind expanding.
Yeah. So R.D. Laing was a writer in the 1960s, and like he coined a phrase which I was aware of and was inspiring me throughout the process, which is the divided self. So that concept inspired what I just described about showing the two sides. But it's actually then, when it came to actually naming the project, I actually made the reference more direct. But I wanted the reference to the book to be actually live inside the record itself, which is why I decided to, and I want to play you just to give you kind of,
let's do it.
Firstly an exclusive listen. Obviously you've had a chance to listen to all 5 pairs, but this is a way that even once this is released, this will feel kind of an interesting way to hear it, because vast majority of people will never hear across the two sides. Even on the vinyl record, you're gonna need to flip it. They're gonna be on two separate sides. So the only way you'll hear this is on my YouTube, on the Bandcamp, and if you come and see my live shows, I'm often gonna pair them. And what you get is I put a quote from an R.D. Laing book divided across the two tracks that kind of glues the two together. So for example, this is Touch.
This, touch this on your phone. Touch this, touch this, touch this. You are real.
Now, if you're sitting opposite me, I can see you as another person like myself. Without you changing or doing anything differently, I can now see you as a complex physical chemical system.
I was nearly 6 foot under before I made my teens, so I'm living my life purposefully. We'll all be 6 foot under one day, so follow my lead. Live for each moment, breathe, feel the touch of the breeze in your body, please, before it's 6 foot.
So yeah, that's the crossover moment on of the Touch tracks, the second track.
So that's an example of one of the pairings.
Yeah,
so we've got
exactly.
the Divided Selfie, we've got Cerulean, we've got MC Beastly, and then we've got the 5 senses and two. So and within each sense, an MC Beastly and a Cerulean, linked by one of those quotes
exactly
from the book.
And that was and it's an R.D. Laing. That's a direct quote, barely edited actually. Interestingly, I managed to actually find five quotes, all from a single 2-page excerpt.
Wow.
Towards the start of the book. So it's remarkably like faithful sort of rendition of his writing as well.
Interesting. What so that was Touch.
For me, touch is the most direct sense of connection between two people. I mean, as the name suggests. So I wanted to basically talk about connecting between people. And so Laing talks about if there's another person sitting opposite you, that you regard them more as a person. And then he goes on to talk about them being like a physical chemical system, and that just reminds me of like we are just human as well, and we're just mortal, and like we we're not gonna be here forever, so make the most of having your fellow humans around.
Yeah, Touch is incredible. It's man, you got in the car, we fist bumped, we'll probably hug before you leave.
My man.
But it's that touch barrier is such a powerful thing, touch, isn't it?
See, the two tracks also have quite separate angles on it. You got Real, which is the Cerulean one, which is exploring ideas around recovering from internet addiction, specifically porn addiction, to rediscover romantic relationships in the real world. Then you got, this comes as an artist as well, you're often your own worst critic, but as an addict it's true as well. And so just talk to someone, seriously, like I kid you not, some sort of like whatever, the most intolerant person you can imagine will probably be kinder on you than you are to yourself.
Maybe it's someone close to you in your life, maybe it's someone who isn't.
Ideally they are awesome and like close to you, but
the connection is the healer, I think, because it takes you out of the isolation, loneliness trap, and you feel alone and you go and do more of it, and you feel alone and you go and do more of it, and whether it's drink or whether it's porn, I feel like that's what happens.
The reason it was good that I nipped it early was before I got a smartphone,
right?
Which is actually when I was 21, and then now the smartphone experience is probably more tactile. And they are tapping into the tactile thing already with touchscreen devices, and you can see it with the iPad.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, touch it.
Yeah,
Get ready for the next track. They're kidding you in a bit and thinking it's a tactile experience, but really, it's sight.
Metaverse and all this stuff, which feels more real, I think it's only going to be more dangerous.
Yeah, it will be more deceiving, for sure.
There you go.
6 foot as a counterpoint, because that is about entertainment, and it's about Hollywood, and inspired by my time in LA, but I want to say that smartphone porn will probably feel more real, but it's still just as nebulous and far away from your reality as like Hollywood is.
That big personality, I think it's a human thing to want to be seen, to want to be appreciated, to want to be loved, to want to fit in. So that's what I got from that.
Nice.
And I'd love to hear what you were putting into that.
Yeah.
And maybe what you got from that.
Yeah, I think that's how it started out, was just kind of like, yo, I'm a big guy. Like, and
We've all got that.
I was writing that, but the thing is, when there's me, Lawrence Warner, writing the songs, and then I go into performance mode.
Right.
And I was out in a hotel room in Dubai, you know, top of the world in a way, like, you know, recording this track, being like, whoa, it sounds amazing. And bringing all my arty skills to produce it, and it's like we've got the horns on and got all of that, the strings, it's sounding orchestral. I'm like, wow, there's so much energy in halfway through this track. I feel like I want to actually take this moment to say something bigger as well, and a bit like with Real, like social message wise. So towards the end, I talk about, you know, how our political leaders are not doing well enough, but I also wanted to cut them some slack and say, like, look, we don't need world changers, we just need people who are going to work hard. And that's great. But then our visionaries, like, come to entertainment industry, come and inspire people, because we can get to tell stories. Like, stories I told, for example, was like how I nearly died at the age of 11 because of clinical negligence, because of a drug that should not have been on the market and was not tested robustly enough with young people. And yeah, I'm aware that in America there were fatalities of similar demographic people. I went into a coma for 3 days and came out, and yeah, it's been something that I've like been really, yeah, I mean, look, it makes me fucking tear up as well thinking about it, because yeah, I was so close, and it could have been me, and ever since then I've had to think to myself, that could have been me. But I think in the first few years when I thought that, it was almost with a weight of pressure. It was almost like, especially if we're in a religious upbringing, it was like, God's given you this gift of life, like you've got to make something of it. You know, since I've become to a more agnostic place, and just become more generous to myself, I think I'm more approaching it now from a place of like, all right, awesome. That was something that happened. Life is a gift. I want to make the most of it, but I've also got to go easy on myself a little bit, and and not let that define me. So, for example, like you hear a lot of paranoia about big pharma these days, obviously in the context of the vaccine. So I just wanted to point out to everyone that, like, I'm not letting that paranoia and negativity dictate my life. And it was a risk, but, you know, give it to me, because life is a gift and I want it to go on as long as possible. So
I'm a deep thinker and a deep feeler, and I feel like you're a deep thinker and a deep feeler. I think traditionally you've been deep thought-wise. Yeah. And it sounds like you're excavating the feeling side.
I don't cry often. I did bawl my eyes out at my grandma's funeral a couple of weeks ago, but that was the first and only time really in the last couple of years. And I do wonder about that, because I do feel a lot of sadness often on a daily basis. So I'm like, where is it going? So this is why I just want anyone listening to this who's hearing me talk quite triumphantly about how, I kicked a porn addiction, alcohol addiction and stuff, became an artist, and I'm improving, and I'm gonna get like, and all of that, they might hear a triumphant tone, but know that I still do struggle with my emotions.
MC Beastly's a side to you.
Yeah.
And I think that cerulean brings more balance and gives a fuller picture. Now, MC Beastly, that would have been a reason why this character appeared, has developed, has evolved. You were talking about emotions earlier. This is why I'm really excited about this album, and I know, no pun intended, you've put your heart and soul into this, because you've excavated and you've gone deep, and you shared that with me.
Came about when I was in a sauna with Young Era, Mitchell Young, at his local gym, and he goes, mate, I'm thinking about going to LA in January, and I'm like, all right, let's go. And then with our third companion, Abhishek Pandit, adapting a screenplay which I produced and acted in, of his short film, and then also we which I talk about in 6 Foot. Почему ты русский is why are you speaking Russian?
Right.
And basically, it's a quote. My character says that in the film. And my response is like, why am I playing characters? Why am I making films? Why am I playing characters? Well, because, and I go, I played a Frenchman in Moliere, I played the Dane, Hamlet, so I'll play this game, then get back to my lane. That's where I'm laying this track from where I came, Eastleigh boy from back in the day. It's my autobiography. It's like, in entertainment, there's varying degrees of like distance to yourself. Mm-hmm. But I would say that they all try to be truthful to your own experience if you're doing it truthful. Like, then this album will be a good test. It's like the people who love Beastly at his most outrageous and ironic, Swan Center, etc. What will they make of this? Because I don't think some of the tracks like Burner and Monopoly in the first album did connect. Probably didn't give them a chance to with the marketing, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see like how much of that can rap fans tolerate.
MC Beastly's, I think MC Beastly has evolved.
For sure.
I think Cerulean's evolved.
Yeah.
And that's because Lawrence has evolved.
All true.
MC Beastly. When was MC Beastly born?
Born to the world February 2020.
Right.
You know, conceived.
Conceived. When Lawrence
Rapper alter egos have apparently have 36 month gestation periods, because I actually demoed Swan Center in 2017. And that's an exclusive for Jazz Hothi.
What do you think MC Beastly represents to Lawrence?
Creativity. I've got a t-shirt where it's like, I'm sure it's plain black, but it's like, I performed in it in Brighton last week. It's like a piano, it's like a mouth with a piano tongue, and it just says speak, and it's just like splat. That's like MC Beastly for me. A new narrative for my teenage years and upbringing place as well with Eastleigh. I have immense gratitude for having this alter ego that, not only that, but that people seem to want to hear from. Because basically what people have said is basically like, we like it when you take creative risks. So that's what I'll keep doing, and it inspires everything I do. There's melody in the vocal for sure, but it definitely brings the spirit of an MC Beastly track.
Let's do it.
Of my tongue, tip of my tongue. Tip of my tongue.
The study of human beings begins from a relationship with the other as person. If one is listening to another person talking, one may.
Sometimes you gotta SpitFire to keep your freedoms from dying. So Eastleigh built a SpitFire. So
Yeah.
I wanted to, just like the ones before, but particularly with these two, I wanted to listen to more, both times.
Great, man. And I'm happy that you're able to already, and everyone else will be on June the 22nd for sure.
How does it feel hearing you play your own music back?
So much music out there, isn't there? And it's a varying degrees of quality in terms of production values, vocal delivery, things that I'm trying to improve on actively, that I know that I'm not the finished picture of. But also hearing that back and hearing it with you, enjoying it, I allow myself to reflect on the achievements. Really proud of I'm often really proud of the lyric writing, but Tip of My Tongue I'm particularly proud of, because it's a pop song, it's for a popular audience and to dance to. So I wanted to bring a concept in the lyrics, but one that was just like really universal. And I'm so happy that I settled on the idea of a first kiss, or a memory of a first kiss, because it's just such a universal thing.
You took the words out of my mouth. The universal is what I was thinking. Who can't relate to that?
Yeah.
I remember where I was. I remember the song that I was playing. Wait, yeah, I do. Yeah. It's universal. It's a fucking huge moment in anyone's life, right?
Totally. And then connecting it with, and then I think the coup is connecting it with being on a dance floor and meeting a new girl, because that's that freshness, but there's still the memory there, and merging those two things I think is really a nice concoction. The production, obviously, thanks to folks like you giving feedback on my own, most of the album's self-produced, but as you know, and you said to me, look, Matthew Large, my engineer, he can produce as well, so I threw him a few extra pounds, got it, and he brought out the 90s synths, and even since recording this my live vocals improved even more. I can improve, but to be honest, like today, like I'm hearing the good stuff.
Yeah. Well, you got to look at the journey. You mentioned the vocals. What do you bring the vocal improvement down to? Is it purely practice, or do you feel there's something else there?
There's definitely something to be said for just putting in the hours. And I think that's the baseline, and that's that 10,000 hours thing. Mm-hmm. But where have there been kind of like inflection points? I would say, I'd firstly say I had a baseline of technical training. I've paid my own way after uni through singing lessons with an amazing singer-songwriter, John Mukazal. He taught me to breathe. That sounds funny to say that, but playing live for my grandma's funeral, where it was just a case of bringing an emotional performance and myself just stripping myself away and not getting in that. And it turns out I've surprised myself, like my upper vocal range turns out to not only be higher than I actually thought. I can literally now like hit an F4 where I was stuck at like D4 before, for those who know what that means. But more than that, there's just a quality now. There's like a confidence in and an expansiveness in the sound of the vocal, and that people were remarking on afterwards. In terms of production stuff, just like, for example, like you don't really hear it there, but just like, you remind me of the way the old mate. Matt decided to kind of loop the vocal, and there's other ways that really good engineers can improve the quality of a vocal delivery. The wait for it aren't auto-tune. And I just wanted to just take a moment just to say that like there's a lot of misconceptions around auto-tune and tuning.
Right.
90% of the tracks that you hear have had the tune altered from the delivery on the charts. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that they were auto-tuned, either with a capital A, which is a specific product that's not even widely used, or B, real-time tuning alteration.
Adds and deepens character.
Yeah.
It brings that out more.
Yeah.
Because, for example, what you just sang there, first time I've experienced that in person, by the way, just that little snippet. When I listen to it, I'm going to have a great time, but there's going to be there's loss from that to that, even though it sounded remarkable.
You heard Tip My Tongue, highly produced, and then you heard SpitFire, quite ratchet production. That's me at my best and worst production back to back on this album. Which do you think is a more authentic, allows for a more authentic experience?
I like both. I don't know. I enjoy stripped back acoustic as much as I enjoy Kanye highly produced. As long as it's telling a story and coming from a place, I feel it.
Yeah.
That's me, personally.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. But I think the reason why I'm biased towards higher production values, live will always lean in the direction of more ratchet and acoustic,
right?
Especially if it is authentic. Because I know, and I'll take this moment to say that there's some people who do live tuning, also like tuning stuff, and especially auto tuning live. That for me, that's not good, because live is the one chance we have. But for me, when you're in record, I would say go as amazing overproduced as you can.
Production is what takes it to the next level auditorily for the listener.
Yeah.
And it's what's like, they might say, oh, what do you like? What do you prefer, this song or this song? Not sure why, but that song. Not sure why is because the production value is.
Exactly. It's a show, man. It's really in sounds production.
Produced.
That's my LTD.
Yeah. I don't think. Well, you may or may not realise I've already got so many things that I'm going to be simmering over consciously and probably unconsciously as well after we finish this up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone who's tuned in, either in the full podcast form or on Jazz's end or on the highlights video on YouTube, Cerulean Sounds, will do the same. And
no, absolutely. Let's invite people to comment. And I would also add, like, listen to this album with an open mind, and listen to what Lawrence is saying as Cerulean and MC Beastly, because there are things you'll get from the first listen, the second, third, fourth, especially if you resonated with any of what we've talked about in the course of this conversation. There'll be things that you get from repeated listens that might surprise you. That's what I would say.
wow, man! And if anyone does have that experience over the coming months, like, also let us know. And
how can they let you know, Lawrence? What's the best way?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, on ceruleansounds.com, there's a contact form, and I get dinged like that if that gets filled in. And I check email, as you know, I check email daily. So yeah, hit me on email. So yeah, contact at ceruleansounds.com is the direct email address. But then public comments as well, I respond to 100% of those as well that aren't trolls. So you're pretty much going to hear back from me.
Where can people listen to this album?
Yeah, cracking point to finish on. I'm gonna speak to the camera, to my YouTube people tuning in. If you've been following my journey on YouTube since MC Beastly and you subscribed and followed the whole person coming forward here, then you're in the right place, because this is where you're going to be able to hear the tracks paired. And just in 5 videos on a playlist. It'll do the Divided Selfie playlist on my channel. It's on the end screen of this as well. So honestly, if you're watching on YouTube, just hit the playlist at the end. It'll start with a music video for Sight, which I thought was quite neat, and then the lyric videos for the other 4 tracks. That's going to be a great experience. If you then want to go, for some reason more shallow, then go to streaming and just hear one side down Cerulean. But probably actually more likely you want to go a bit deeper, go to Bandcamp. You can buy in physical form. A vinyl will be produced by Christmas. That's all I can say. So you can pre-order one of those. But also in the meantime, you can get your hands on a CD and even some merch. So yeah, and also download it so you can actually have the MP3s, which is like I do for other artists once a month. So it may sound like an insane idea, but you know, it'll get me £5 as well, which is like not a bad price for like these 5 pairs of tracks.
That's for the downloads from where?
From Bandcamp.
From Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Go to Bandcamp, guys. If you don't listen to this album, you're crazy. That's all I'm going to say. If you don't listen to Tip of My Tongue and start raving, I don't know what's wrong with you guys. But, you know, I'm already like...
Yeah, man. It's
just shaking here.
Banger.
Listen to the album. This has been sick.
Yeah, man.
I've loved doing it again. Looking forward to the next one already. Like.
Hey, I've got a small matter of making an album, but I get better at it every year. And we get better at these as well. So thank you so much, mate. Go on, give me that hug. That hug that was mentioned at the beginning. Stop that. That's your podcast right there. So my YouTube peeps, you can see this was the Tula mic that I recorded the Beast side on as MC Beastly. That's the omnidirectional mode for the podcasting. And that is the off button, which is what's happening to you. Bye.